1787, May 25th, 55 white educated property owners over 3 months sit in a hall in Philadelphia in complete secrecy of what they're really up to. This isn't a meeting for recommendations for the Articles of Confederation like the outside may believe. No, this is a meeting to completely create a new guiding document for all Americans. We the People has now been written by the few to hopefully provide for the many. Let's take a step back. Most areas of study that have a component of change can be examined over time with an idea of big cycles. Biologists may observe the cyclical relationships between prey and predators, but when widening the perspective to a comprehensive ecosystem, these patterns align within larger environmental cycles, like water availability and soil composition. Economists discuss the short-term impacts of the Federal Reserve's monetary policies. Yet again, and in a very similar way, these cycles are superimposed on larger economic cycles, like the debt crisis characterized by excessive debt, shortage of buyers, which significantly forecast recessions. Small and large cycles in history can be harder to define, as the first principles are largely vague as a consequence of the field covering so much ground. One popular but unaccepted theory has this idea of saeculums, consisting of high, awakening, unraveling, and crisis, about 70 to 80 years. Amid all the smaller patterns, the revolution of the past begins to backslide, leading to a new crisis that urges a new revolution. This artwork aims to depict America's constitutional history within larger societal cycles, showcasing how a single document can adapt across saeculums amid significant societal and cultural shifts. 1789, Saeculum 1. I wanted there to be two art pieces that competed for space in one larger American picture: the room where it happens and the people it happens to. During this time period, large constitutional strides had already been made. More were to be made, and in 1791, 3/4 of states ratified the first 10 Bill of Rights, safeguarding individual freedoms in the context of a federalist system. This was hugely important to ensure the rights of Americans as they continued moving westward, manifesting their destiny. This was a document that was to protect the people of the United States, not the people apart from it. Washington was cherished, dubbed the father of his country. The natives had a different name, Conedicarius, translation, town destroyer. 1861, 80 years later, Saeculum 2. Was this document supposed to protect only these people or everyone? It certainly seemed like we the people, Americans, and the proliferation of slavery certainly seemed like a clear violation of securing the blessings of liberty for all. But if this document had almost been around for 80 years, and slavery was so central to the economics of America, it would take a crisis, a civil war, to change something of this magnitude. But values eventually prevailed, slavery was banned, and a new amendment changed equality forever. The 14th Amendment lived up to some of the words in the original Declaration. Under Lincoln, life, liberty, and property were now constitutionally protected. 1933, 80 years later, Saeculum 3. Many great steps proceeded, with women being able to vote, the Democratic election of senators, but problems financially reached a new height with the Great Depression. General welfare was a core part the government was to protect, but the solution wasn't in amendments, but change proceeded in the confines of the system that the Constitution already outlined. The New Deal, as a joint executive and legislative effort under FDR, provided significant relief to struggling people. 2008, 80 years later, final Saeculum. Anyone over 18 can now vote, but the problems of the past have morphed into new ones. One more economic crash in 2008, housing markets decimated, and the financial sector in disarray. The government had to implement fiscal policy, and no more amendments were needed for American finances to largely recover. There has been 0 amendments since 1992, with none in clear sight. Does this mean that the Constitution has reached a state of equilibrium, that we feel like the government has provided what it needs in order to appease its citizens? No, government confidence is at an all-time low. Perceptions of the future are at an all-time low. I want to bring you back to the start of this presentation. A small group of guys in a hot room making a document that is going to rule a future global superpower. Although they were all white, all rich, all educated, all male, they also all agreed that the Constitution should start with "we the people." The land we took must be in the promise of something greater. Maybe the promise is recognized through judicial interpretations, rewriting the Constitution essentially. Maybe the promise is recognized through the state laws. Maybe the promise is recognized directly through the Constitution itself. But regardless, one thing has always been fought for, whether it was in the Founding Fathers' words or in the many amendments that followed. The promise must be realized in major part through equal democracy. We might be living through the unraveling part of this new saculum, where individualism and lack of trust amid political polarization start the path to crisis. But despite the crises matching these increments in history, the saculum theory is just that, a non-scientific theory, an observation. The true larger forces behind the crises in America is geniusly recognized in the Constitution itself. The individuals who dictate these broad patterns. Any person a mirror could reflect. This is what this art piece is trying to capture. The Constitution is a complex document that has the ability to uplift a nation, but necessitates participation, as a fight for rights has been just as relevant in every major amendment as it has been in the founding of America. Whether or not this document can keep pace with our evolving morals is up to us. Broad patterns are now in our own hands. Freedoms are gifts from the past we must use to keep fighting for more. Year after year, amendment by amendment. Promote a constitution truly by the people, for the people. Thank you so much.